Welcome back to the Political Spectrum podcast here at Heartland Community College. My name is Andrea Merkel.
And my name's Servetka.
And with us is Hunter Spencer, our sound technician. Today we have Dennis Grundler here, who is the McLean County Republican Party chair, and it is so great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, do we just want to jump straight into questions?
Sure.
Or do you want to give us a little introduction about yourself first?
My name is Dennis Grundler. I'm the McLean County Republican chairman. I live in Downs, Illinois, and I've lived in the area for about 18 years.
Very nice. And then how did you come to join the Republican Party, jumping straight into our first question?
Boy, okay. Well, I started by going to some meetings at my local Downs Village Hall, and I wasn't happy about some things that were voted on, and I decided to come and get involved because I've always heard if you don't vote, don't complain. And I figured the biggest way to make a challenge or make a change is to get involved.
So what age?
Well, I just turned 50. I got involved probably with the party when I was 48, so it's not too long.
Really? That's interesting. And then did you have like any previous interest in politics, or was it just like a one day?
I have always been interested in watched politics. Probably started voting, I don't know, in the last 20 years. So at first didn't vote at all and become more and more so as I've gotten older.
Interesting. Thank you.
How did you get into the Republican Party chair?
Oh, well, I came to Connie Baird at the time, and I came to a called a meeting where you come in and make a change and make a difference. And I showed up at that meeting. I liked what they had to say. So at that point in time, I decided I was going to run for precinct committeeman for Old Town 2. So I ran for Old Town 2, and I was elected PC there. Then I became the executive director for the board and helped them with plannings and trying to get things together. Then Connie asked me to be on the board as vice chair on the last election. The precinct committeeman voted me in as vice chair. And then Connie Baird had to step down in December because of health reasons of her husband. So I took over at that point in time.
Have you seen any challenges so far this year?
There's always a lot of challenges. The biggest challenge, I guess, is trying to find out why 50% of people don't vote. And we need to get them back to voting.
We've seen that a lot here on campus, especially with students, how just a lot of people don't even realize that there's an April election. That's
right.
The biggest thing.
So true.
The consolidated elections, honestly, last time we have two different election commissions, so it's a little different where we live from a lot of places. We have the county elections, which the county clerk runs, but we also have the Bloomington Election Commission, who runs the Bloomington area. The last consolidated election 4 years ago with no mayors running, they had 9% of people show up to vote. So 9% of people are controlling everything and policies in the Bloomington area, and Normal wasn't much better than that.
So you said that you also didn't vote, so why didn't you vote, I guess is our biggest question.
Probably why a lot of people today don't vote, and I take it to they don't think their vote matters. Mm-hmm. And after getting involved and learning how intricate the voting is, it really does matter. It makes a difference. It controls your local government. Even if you live in a state that's pretty blue, your local government doesn't have to be all blue or whatever color. You can get involved and make a difference.
Yeah, I work for an environmental organization, and we're going through some stuff right now with like CO2 pipelines and everything, and I've told people about it, and even in that, they don't think that their voice matters. So it's not even just voting, it's like everything.
Well, let's face it, life is busy, and you have kids with sports. There's a lot of things you can do on a Saturday that's not at a Republican or a Democrat or whoever's meeting. You want to you live your life and kind of want people to just leave you alone, but at the same time, your civic duty, get in and vote and make a difference. And if you don't, then you're not going to see change.
Mm-hmm. So what changes would you like to see in the Republican Party?
I would like to see the non-fracturing, because what happens is you have people that are middle of the line and people that are farther right, and they all have spirited primaries, which is a good thing to have. But when we're done, we need to get behind that person, whoever wins, and not fracture and not stay home. And that's what it's like. Well, I'm going to take my ball and go home because my guy didn't win the primary. And if you look at the other side of the spectrum on the Democrats, they seem to be in lockstep. It doesn't matter who wins, they're behind them, whether they hold their nose and go in and pull the lever or what. But Republicans haven't done that.
And then that'll take us into our next question. What changes would you like to see in other parties?
As far as the Democrat Party, I would like to see the party that preaches tolerance to be more tolerant on things that they don't agree with, because I think a lot of times they don't want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear what they think coming out of your mouth. And the one thing I've seen them do is shout their own people down when they don't 100% agree with them. And I think everybody has the right to think and feel however they want, but I also, myself, I can think one way and still respect you for thinking another way and actually fight for your right to think a different way. And I think that's a difference. I would like to see some changes as far as, like I said, that, and maybe a little more diversity where if you're not all in, then you're out. And I think I see that in their party as well. So that's what I would probably change. I would change them to be able to that. And one more thing, I'm sorry. I think they should be, I think so individual liberties, I think, is very important. And I think a lot of time the Democrat platform will be, hey, this is all for, it's the better of the bunch, the better of the community, where they might step on someone's individual liberties. And I believe we should need to look at individual liberties.
Yeah, I feel like our country has been like really divided, especially in the past couple of years, because people just don't listen to each other.
You know, you used to be able to disagree and still be friends and go have a beer. Yeah. Now you get called names and blocked. Mm-hmm. So if we can get back to talking about the actual issues at hand, and I'll tell you, like I tell everybody, I think we all agree on 50% of everything. We really do. Maybe a different answer of how we get there, but we agree on that. Then there's 20% that we could maybe negotiate on, and then there's 30% we're never going to agree on. So let's stop talking about that and stop dividing people.
Yeah. So kind of going along with that, do you have anything that you would want to see from the Libertarian Party?
Honestly, I have a lot of libertarian in me. I think most of the libertarian votes are peeled off the Republican side because it is more of less government. Like the Republicans want less government, we want less taxes, and the libertarian side, so far as maybe kind of you shouldn't maybe even have rules at all, maybe, as long as you're not hurting somebody else, live your life.
Yeah. What do you think the future of the Republican Party is in McLean County?
We're trying to make changes. We're trying to get people back in and more engaged. Not everybody's going to agree with what we're doing, but what we've been doing hasn't been working. So we have to shake it up and change some things to see if we can get more people engaged.
So what exactly are you guys doing to get in there and shake it up?
Well, we've elected and appointed a lot of PCs, precinct committeemen, to try to get out and get the knocking on doors and letting people know, hey, there is an election coming here in April. And these are the ways we see, even though this is a non-consolidated election, and I do get a little bit of flack back for that because it's supposed to be nonpartisan. But when I started watching, we started nonpartisan. But the Women League of Voters, the NAACP, who I've met with, the unions, the Democrats through PACs are actually out there pushing, their people that they want. So why don't we have a voice? So we started getting our voice out there, even in non-consolidated now, trying to not say, hey, be Republican, but we want people that are more conservative being elected.
And then where do you think the party's going in terms of the state of Illinois?
Well, we've actually joined a group called Surus Illinois, and their goal is to turn the state red by 2030. And we do that through making each party kind of like a government faction. So you have pillar heads or different fundraising groups or outreach. So you're making sure you're getting out to the communities through outreach. So we have several different committees that we're forming to try to get our message out, because although I believe Republicans have the better message, we are the worst at messaging. So we need to change our messaging to actually people will understand what we do stand for.
And then lastly, what do you think the future of the Republican Party is in the United States?
Oh, boy. I hope it's good. And that's one of the things that we need to do. We need to cultivate better candidates to win. When we complain about voting booths or people not being on the up and up when it comes to voting, you can complain about that. But honestly, if you don't get the other 40, 50% of people out to vote, none of that even matters. So we need to get our act together. We need to have better candidates. And we need to run strong on a platform. We need to get back to a platform. I believe the GOP, the grand old party, we are more interested in getting more people to come into our umbrella than actually we might have lost a little bit about who we are. So if we can get back who we are, I think people with good messaging will come back into the party and get back re-engaged and activated.
So when you say get back to who we are, like what core values are you talking about with the GOP that you would like to see brought back?
Okay, so we have this on our website, but we are for less government, less taxes. We are for safety in our cities. We are for freedom of the markets. We don't believe in picking winners and losers. Maybe get away from some of the subsidies that we have that skew the market different ways. But really safety in your community and your individual freedoms. And like I said, if you go to our website, you'll actually see what our value and our vision is.
So in your opinion, within the last couple of years, do you think that the Republican Party has kind of gone off track, or has it even become divided?
Well, it's definitely come both. I believe it's come off the rails and divided, to be honest with you. And that's why we're in the shape we're in. And some of that is because we have that mentality, I'm taking my ball and going home, when our person doesn't win. Hey, if you go back to 2016, Donald Trump was not who I voted for in the primary, but he was the guy. And, and then they came out and voted for him, and then he is torn down for 5 years straight. And, and the pandemic and everything else. I think we need to get away from the fighting. We need to start building. And if we can start building, we can start winning.
I definitely agree with that for all parties, actually.
Yeah, I think that's just common amongst politics in general, I think, is just getting back to what our core values look like as a country and what we need as, like, people, I guess, and less about what do we need as, like, separate groups of people, but what do we need as, like, one large population. I don't know, kind of tangent. Okay, this next question is like a bajillion words long, so you guys are going to have to listen to the whole thing. One thing that has divided the Republican Party is Donald Trump's claims of the election fraud in the 2020 election. In August of 2022, the McLean County Republican Party showed a film titled 2,000 Mules that propagates the claim that the 2020 election was stolen. Do you think that this film was factual? Was there election fraud?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one because I wasn't there. I believe election fraud was possible. I'm not saying that it happened. I'm saying there are things out there that you listen to. And I think what happened is the state's policies and procedures and laws changed through the court systems. And that is not the right way if you look at our Constitution, how things need to happen. When it comes to voting, there are certain statutes that need to be followed. And a lot of those were put to the wayside as far as signature verifications, mail-in voting. There's a lot of things that the rules changed midstream in that election that shouldn't have been allowed. Now, we can argue that, hey, this old folks home usually has 4 people vote, and all of a sudden you had 80 voting. We can talk about that. It doesn't really matter, I don't believe. I think the thing that happened that was incorrect were rules were changed, statutes were made and voted on, or not voted on, but ruled on by courts, that if you look at the statutes, that actually says that to change this, it has to be from your legislation. And the legislators did not change these laws. States and governors and courts changed the rules, and that is not how it was supposed to be done.
So, like we said, the party claimed that there was election fraud in McLean County. Do you guys still support that idea, or do you guys have members that do still support that idea?
Well, I don't know if we ever legitimately voted on that and said, hey, there is election fraud. Everybody has their thoughts. There are people out there that think there's no way that Joe Biden got 81 million votes when you had somebody as popular as Barack Obama that only had 64 million votes. And there are areas where we did probably have more votes than registered voters, but then they'll say, oh, more people registered on the day of, and that's possible. Once again, I'm not going to say definitively that the party says that it was stolen. And at this point, we need to work on, once again, we can go back and work on election integrity, and we have people working on that. But if we don't get the other 40 to 50% out to vote, it doesn't matter if people do or don't, think that there is something stolen or not.
So I've always kind of thought that the whole election stolen conversation that we were all having was, from my perspective, very divisive within the GOP, because I saw a lot of people saying, like, no, definitely it was stolen, and then, people saying, no, I don't think it was. And do you think it was truly as detrimental? Do you think the 2020 election was as detrimental to the GOP as it was to, like, the whole state of politics?
Yeah, once again, that's tough. I've never before, and I've been watching really the elections since 1980, probably with Ronald Reagan. It was the first election that I really remember that we voted in school, as kids.
Yeah.
And that was the first one I voted on. And ever since then, every time I watched the news at night, we would go through and you'd count and count, and you'd stay up late. Sometimes it was over about 9 or 10 o'clock, and sometimes it was midnight or 1 in the morning. Never before have I seen the voting just absolutely stop and then start again the next day and go on for the next 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it raised a lot of people's questions, concerns. Once again, 81 million votes is a hard number to swallow, whether legitimate or not, and I think that's where a lot of people come from. I'm not going to sit here as a chairman and say it was stolen, because obviously it counted. Now, whether they should have changed the laws or not, now that's where our conversation should probably be going. If they were legitimately changed, if it would have made a difference. How about that?
Yeah.
So how do you choose the candidates to support in elections?
Usually we sit down with them, we talk to them. In the case here, we had breakfasts in January and February, and we invited every candidate to come to our forums. Doesn't matter what side of the spectrum they are on. Everybody that was running was invited. We had a breakfast at the DoubleTree, and we let everybody say their bio, and then they were asked questions from the crowd. And from that, and talking to people, we have decided to pick people that are more conservative to get behind. It's not that there's some people in the maybe in the middle that wouldn't be good, but they are not maybe our core values. And we were trying to get back to our core values, because I think that's what's going to bring people back into the party and get them to vote again.
I like that. So then, I guess just as more like, not personal question, but like, how do you go about finding people? Have you ever like put yourself in the situation where you're like, I think this person would be great to be an elected official?
So we do, and I've had the pleasure and the privilege to actually appoint 3 people since I came on in December. We have had Tom Bennett's seat that was up. We had another election that was up, but the person that won was going to be taking office in like 4 days, so we decided to leave William Hodder in there for the 4 days previous, and then we replaced Senator Berkman's spot. So I was involved with all 3 of those, and getting the right people to run is hard, because they know no matter what they say or do, you're going to have 50% of the people tearing you down, calling you names, trying to ruin your business. There's a huge cancer culture out there right now that even on school boards, you have somebody running for school board, and then I hear somebody on Facebook say, oh, I'm not going to do business with them anymore. I'm like, does that really have anything to do? The guy's running for school board. And when you make things personal like that, it hurts, and that's what stops people from wanting to run. We need to be able to get good people to run that have good values, and it is hard to find people like that. And we do have trainings and programs and things like that where we do look for good people to run. On the county boards, we say, hey, we look for people, and sometimes we ask people to run in areas that we know we're probably not going to win, and that's hard when you look at somebody and say, okay, let's run, let's get you to run. Okay, I want to run, and then they're like, what are my chances of winning? And you look at them and say, if you work your butt off, you might come close. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. We need to find better people. And some of that will be getting back to our messaging and getting people more involved and re-engaged.
So you don't think it's just like the area of McLean County? You do think it's problems within like your messaging and advertising maybe?
Well, yeah. I mean, I really don't advertise, I guess, for something. Someone has to have a certain thing in them to make them want to run. And they want to make a change. And listen, we had some really good candidates, and we have some that run that maybe the state GOP picked them as winners. And I'm not saying I agreed with them, but once again, when the primary is done, you need to get behind your people, and that's where I think we're losing it. I think we need to have spirited debates in the primaries. Things are going to be said, and you have to have thick enough skin to get over that. And I think it's hard to find somebody in this day that has a clean background from the past and no skeletons in their closet to come out and say, yes, I'm willing to do that.
Do you ever see that your own personal candidates that you support differ from the Republican Party?
After a primary, yes. There are definitely people that were running for office that were on the Republican ticket that I don't believe were as conservative, and I think that cost us some elections too. But at the same time, if you live in an area that has predominantly middle right, maybe middle left, that's probably the candidate that you need to have to run that. So I would love to have more conservative, but we can run a person that's 100% conservative in a district that's maybe 40% conservative. It's going to be hard to get them to win.
Yep. And then I guess moving on to our final question, what do you think needs to change in order for, what changes in the Republican Party to have them step out in a new light in the upcoming elections?
What was that again?
A more positive light in the upcoming elections?
Well, we're trying to be positive, and sometimes I think we are very strong-headed in our ways, and we have what some would say are the like deep state. And I hate to say that word, but you even have that in the Republican Party that's locally here, that people that wear an R on their names because it's easier to win with an R behind your name in the county, even though you might not really be conservative in your voting patterns. And I think people see that. And when you promise something to someone, and then when you actually get elected and you don't follow what you say you're going to do, I think people say, forget that. I'm not coming out and voting anymore, because they're just going to they're going to lie to you and tell you what you want to hear every 2 or 4 years. And then you don't hear about them again. I think fear-mongering is a huge thing. You don't hear anything about right now that we're going to take Social Security away from older people, but I guarantee you next year that's going to come back up. Why does every 2 to 4 years that come up? Because fear works. People's emotions work, and that's why Democrats, their stories maybe aren't as logical, but they're emotional, and people vote on emotion. So I think if we can start talking to people about their emotions and using stories and explaining to them why maybe our way is a better way of doing things, we can actually make some change. And I think that's what we need to do.
Awesome.
I do have one last question. What is your opinion on the Unit 5 referendum?
Oh, boy. Since I at first I tried to stay away from that because I want people to decide themselves. Last fall, they decided to not support that referendum, the people, that is. I don't live in Unit 5. What happens with Unit 5 is they have overspent in the past, and it's time to pay the piper. And the problem is they just want to keep going back to the well for more money and more taxes. And they tell people, well, it's really not more taxes, because after the next 3 years, some building funds are being paid off and some bonds are being paid off that we borrowed money for. So really, it's about a wash. Well, there's a couple of things I have to say with that. If you look at the actual referendum that's on the ballot, if you have not voted early, it strictly tells you that the taxes are going up $20,400,000 if this is voted on. Now, there are good things that are going to fall off to offset a little bit of that, but it's really not allocating money. It's kind of like if you're struggling at home and you're about to pay off a car and you're going to have a little bit of breathing room and you might be able to eat out once a month because all of a sudden it's like government does. We already have the money for this, so we're going to keep spending it, but on something else. And so it's going to be about the same. But here's what they're not telling you. They're not telling you about extra revenues that they're going to be getting from Rivian and extra income taxes or extra income, the EAVs. They're not telling you about the 1,500 new houses going up and the money that's going to bring in. And they're not also including that you think there's not going to be any more building funds that they're going to need. You don't think they're going to want to build another new school on the south side. Once that happens, we're going to have the highest taxes in the state. We're already the second highest in the nation. It's going to put us up there. If they build another school and have to do anything else with any other things for raising funds, they're so high. So the problem with the Unit 5 referendum, and so with the people that are in place, to answer your question, I cannot support a tax hike for the people that either got us into this mess or have been complacent with keeping us in this mess. $200 million a year. That's what Unit 5 gets. A quarter. Well, and with this raise, it's going to be almost $250 million a year for the school district. It's huge. And they can't make it work. They have about 200, a little over 200 students a year they're losing. So if you go back over the last 6 years, 8 years, they're over 1,200 enrollment down. They have $56 million more in revenues from the property taxes going up, but they can't make it work. They don't really have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. So unless we put different people into place to make them fiscally responsible, they're just going to keep raising in taxes and spending your money. So at this point in time, we cannot support that increase. Now, I'm not saying they don't need a bump eventually. If they get the right people in there and they say, hey, this is what it's going to take to make it work, this is what we're doing to cut what we have, then, maybe we can talk about that again.
I was actually just talking to someone about this, and I went to the two newest schools in Unit 5 when I was growing up, and when I was in middle school, they were talking about building a new South High. So it's just like...
Yeah, they're waiting to tell you about that until after they get this tax hike. They won't call it tax hike, but it's a permanent increase of 32.56 multipliers. That's about a third higher, and it's permanent. Like I said, it's like government to go ahead and keep wanting to spend the money that they're getting.
It's funny to see that your response was almost the exact same to, we interviewed the chair and vice chair of the Libertarian Party, and the way you both exactly went, why are we giving them more money if they keep causing the problem?
Right. Well, there needs to be fiscal responsibility, financial responsibility, and I can't, in good rights, say, hey, we need to give them more money so they can just keep misappropriating the money and spending it in the wrong places. They need to get their spending under control. $200 million is a lot of money, a lot. And they're just asking for more. And guess what? If you give it to them, and here's the other issue that I see, the teachers union has backed 4 candidates that will be voting on their contracts this year. And I don't understand how anybody wouldn't see that as a conflict of interest, that you're trying to back somebody that's going to be voting on your contracts. So not that that's a major issue, but I think it's something to look at. And we need to just get our spending in control. If you look at them compared to other schools as far as their Gen Ed fund, other schools are making it work. This school, I talked to one of the school board members, and he came to me, and he said, hey, we're about $12 million deficit. I said, okay, so they wanted to raise this. He goes, oh, but it's really not going to raise it. And he tried to sell me on this idea. And I was almost ready to buy into that until I looked, and I said, okay, so what happens in 4 years? Oh, no, in 4 years, we have a $20 million deficit. I'm like, so this isn't temporary. This is going to be always. And they're going to keep spending and spending and spending as long as you allow them to do it. The people said no in last fall, and we'll see what they say this time, because really it's ultimately up to people. I know there's a lot of people out there that are on a fixed income that are hurting because of inflation and housing or rent going up, and now they're going to put this on top of them because you pay property taxes if you rent. You're just paying your landlord because he's paying them, and it's just going to keep going up and keep going up until people decide enough is enough.
Yeah, I'm personally really divided on that issue. Because I do want the best for the students. I want them to have their sports and their band and everything. But then again, I don't know when it's going to end.
Well, there are 4 people running for the school board that say they won't cut those parts of the students. So I think what Unit 5 has done is try to cut where it hurts the most to make people vote for this time. And it's sad to see that because there are other ways for them to cut and save some money. And they need to get it under control. And like I said, even if we give them it's going to be $20,400,000 if you look at that, but they were asking for $12 million. It's never going to be enough. When is it going to be enough? You have less people and you're getting more money and you can't make it work. When are you going to be able to make it work?
Yeah, definitely. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I do not.
Oh, wait, actually, I do, though.
Okay.
What do you think the best way is for students like our age to get involved into politics in a very non-biased way? Because I think a lot of our kids our age, we don't want to get involved because we know and have been told for so long that it's so biased, and we don't want to have a biased opinion. So, how do you think the best way to
politics is biased? You have to understand there are sides. And you have to understand there's no one you're going to agree with 100%. So what you need to do is find somebody that you get behind 70% of the time and realize that some people are going to disagree with you and some people are going to call you names. You have to have young groups. I know like ISU and Wesleyan have young Republicans groups, and they have a president of those, and they come in and meet with us. They come to our functions. We try to talk about candidates together. We talk about getting out the vote together. We don't always agree with who we're going to vote for because a lot of times the college students are a little more center to liberal side. And you have to understand a lot of times that is part of the curriculum of what they're going through. Some of these college professors, not all of them, do put their bias in their teachings. I even see it in the high school level where we go to. Where my daughter goes to, or my kids go to, you can see it in some of the books they read, some of the TED Talks they have to watch, and these young minds are very moldable. And when it's easy to say, well, don't you care? Don't you care? Well, I say it's easy to say, you know what? How about personal responsibility? And I'm not saying we can't have safety nets. Absolutely, I think they're needed. I don't think kids should go hungry. I don't think people should be out on the streets. I think there have to be safety nets. I think we need to get away from fraud, waste, abuse. I think we need to get away from generational welfare. I think that we need to help work the community to become better, and whether that's investing in programs to help people get better jobs where they don't have to be on welfare, I think that would help. Because ultimately, if everybody is being better educated and getting better jobs, then everything works better for the community. So I think we have to, they say we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that, but yeah, we can spend a couple $100 million in Ukraine when we have to. So it's not that we don't have the money. It's not that we don't have it. We don't allocate it to the right spots to build the community as it's needed. A lot of people give Republicans a bad rap for not wanting to fund things. That's a party of no. Well, it's not really the case. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some that pretty far extreme right that thinks that if you don't work, then you shouldn't eat. There is that side. But there's also the extreme left where people think you should have free housing, free health care, free food. The only thing you really should work for is a car and maybe entertainment. And I think that's so far the other way. It sounds like a great euphoria, but it's just not going to, it doesn't ever pan out that way. It doesn't come out like it does on paper. So I think that
perfect on paper, as they say.
Perfect on paper, yeah. But nobody's ever actually been able to make it work. Yeah. Capitalism, people giving them incentives to do better and make more, I think that's where we need to go. I think some of the government things that are set for it is to help people take advantage of the system. For example, back a long time ago, I had a line cook that worked for me, worked 40 hours a week. He was always awesome. Came in one day and said he had to quit. I said, what? You have to quit? Why? He goes, well, they're going to take my medical card away if I work 40 hours a week. And so we had to take him down to 10 hours a week. I was able to keep him for a day or day and a half a week. But so we incentivized that person not to work. And we have to get away from that. We need to have people that are working 40 hours a week. And if they're not making ends meet, that's where we need to help people because they're helping themselves. So we don't believe in really handouts, but hand-ups. And handouts when you need it because nothing wrong with people. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. And if something happens with their job and it's gone, We don't want hungry kids. We don't want people out in the street. But at the same time, we don't want to be giving them money for the next 30 years. We want them to be able to, get back in the workforce and help themselves.
It's about like what steps are going to propel society forward versus supplement the society we have now.
That's right. And it's not that it takes a village. It takes a lot of individuals with tech and everything else to make us better and stronger. Our inventions. And let's be honest, the United States is a service country now. We really don't hardly make anything here. If we could make things back here and make it better or make it so it's price effective, then we could bring some companies back.
Well, that's all I've got. You, Andrea?
Nope. I do want to thank you, though, for coming on to our
thanks for having me.
podcast. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful
Appreciate
talking
it.
to you.
Hope I answered things the best I could.
You did. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Political Spectrum podcast. The podcast is hosted by the leadership of the Political Science Club at Heartland Community College. The club meets every other Wednesday on the normal campus at 2:30 p.m. Thank you, and have a good day.